I tried to get my way. Well, I didn't try. I thought I'd try. I'd dip my toe into a then and a now documentary. It's a YouTube channel. And normally it's very interesting stuff. And the chap who fronts it is very, very articulate in the way he speaks. His language is fascinating. It's called How Capitalism Conquered the World, which was very interesting to me. It made me think, because it didn't. Something else conquered the world. Capitalism was its mechanism. Because I think that capitalism has no intrinsic value except for the obvious one. And apparently it began with the, smart people say this, it began with the East India Dutch Company when they first started issuing stock. So basically, people could sit at home in Holland and risk. It was a risk because, there were small ships going on big oceans. And I suppose that's where the phrase, I take all the risk comes from, when your boss starts complaining. But, the capitalism is a mechanism. It's the imperative behind it that is interesting. So it's not capitalism's fault. Well, one thing is obvious. I think it's really important to all but the most fanatical. If capitalism was a movement away from an improvement on feudalism, we all know that feudalism is back and breathing fire, because feudalism's core never went away. It just became capitalism. And to start off with, it did stop the hereditary nature of feudalism, but time changed all things. And now it is hereditary again. The host states up front that production of cloth, wool and cotton at the time in Britain, the 80 years between 1760 to 1840, due to the Industrial Revolution, improved 160 times. Not 160%, dears, 160 times due to the Industrial Revolution, we know, which is, again, not synonymous with capitalism. And that the peasant could therefore, he said, be a little warmer. It's 160 times more productive, makes the peasant the industrial prole working in the factories in London spinning this cloth, makes him a little warmer. And there you have the contradiction. It is true. This is the rare truth spoken in the piece. The peasant who had become the industrial worker, who tended the industry's dangerous engine, in these 80 years, his and her life improved not a whit from his peasantry days, his peasantry conditions. Some will argue even that it got worse because of capitalism. There is some talk about how when we were stuck with agriculturalism, there were droughts and all these sorts of things. And, but those are things that you emphasize. The possibility of famine or drought is one thing. The reality of a whole life, a lifespan for those people of roughly 35 years spent in misery, is not an off chance. It's not a bad year. It's every year. It's relentless. It doesn't change. That improvement, which did come, had to wait for the union movement or the odd Lord Shaftesbury, an aristocrat with a decent heart, the best the era could do. Essentially, the landed gentry was replaced by the industrialist as the employer and exploiter of labor. Looked at as cause and effect, there was really no change from one era to the next, except that the static nature of an agricultural England with its rigid and horrible class system was changed dramatically by industrialization, fueled by colonial exploitation and slavery. So many good things, but for the urban peasant, for the worker, for the person putting in the hours, nothing changed. So this prompted, does then and now imagine, which I imagine, had Richard II in 1381 stuck to the promises he made to Wat Tyler and the Peasants' Rebellion, the Industrial Revolution would not have happened. In other words, if we had an agricultural peasantry treated fairly, as John Bull said, and for which he was hung, drawn, and quartered, said that Adam digged and Eve span, who then was the gentleman, making the point that there's nothing in the Bible, which they all believed in profoundly, that separates human beings, that creates a class system that says so-and-so is better than so-and-so, which is the basis of the British class system in those days and since. It's an old argument, unworthy of the scholarship of then and now, usually, that humans are only motivated by profit. We'll never know now, but it does change the dates if historians want to draw the conclusions their masters demand. The Peasants' Rebellion predated the lies of Jefferson and the truths of Marx by hundreds of years. Britain might have used that time to get where they think they are today, and the distribution of the goodies, the Industrial Revolution, might have made the peasants more than a little warmer. It would have been less capitalist, and the fledgling golden ages might have had to find something useful to do besides shop. It is possible that without a labor force forced off the land into the factories, schooled to the abuse of the country squire, ready for the factory owner, the Industrial Revolution's profits would have been far more moderate. Had the factory worker been paid their due, had there been a minimum wage, ever so humble, had their rights and dignities been recognized by Richard II, had that been entered into the cultural zeitgeist, had people started to think that way, 300 years, we would have had 300 years of England getting used to equality. It's not what happened. Had the day been 8 hours, the week 40, had children been allowed to be children and not hired at a pittance because the machines had to keep running and small bodies were less likely to get chewed up by them, now and then could make their claim. It then takes the show about 20 minutes to cross the Atlantic, benign tone in place to talk about the access to all that land, the age of discovery. There were people there, new cultures in which we took no interest, a veritable cornucopia of neat stuff, Disney-themed, which is rather like saying, seriously, had the Nazis won World War II, we'd say they discovered England and Russia. I think it was a real revolution in human history when we discovered we could make large amounts of money without lifting a finger, which is capitalism for the capitalist. And once stock was issued by the Dutch East India Company, culture and religion went to furious work to give these parasites meaning. Work has become something other people do. Soon the worker will be even more a figure of fun. The age of Bitcoin feudalism is upon us. See, I can understand the cultured burgher of Amsterdam being very pissed off with kings and belligerent aristocracy. I really, really do understand. I understand them wanting to break away from that, and I understand that capitalism was a means of doing that. That is the hunky-dory story. That is the Disney version. My contention is that it simply allowed the industrialist or the capitalist to replace the aristocrat because that's what they wanted to be. They were jealous of the aristocrat, just like the presumption is if you criticize Elon Musk, it's only because you're jealous of him. So they put the clothes on and they took on and they inherited the attitudes towards the masses. And those attitudes needed enforcing, because the damn people just kept rising, kept, saying, I'm here, I'm a human being. And it's not sympathy. Again, rather like my socialism is not about fairness. It's about the fact that how many billion of there are on the planet. It's very, very hard to make the case that there's much variation between us 7 billion. Certainly not the variation that billionaires would indicate, that an Elon Musk would indicate. So this drive towards finding a measure for, it's not even excellence, is it? Finding a in the sort of jungle that they fantasize, this metaphorical jungle that is life. I guess they think of themselves as lions, and the lion gets the lion's share. And I'm not, my objection to that is not the victimhood of the victimization of the non-lions. There's some of that, but it's not fundamentally that. What's fundamentally there is that the lions are so stupid, so uninteresting. And if what one enjoys about life is life itself and the human variety and the things that we create and the way that we communicate and live with each other, the way we feed each other and make love to each other and have our contests with each other and all that sort of stuff. The least important thing to me is the obsession with believing that I and mine are somehow better than. And that seems to preoccupy so many of us. It seems that watching something like Game of Thrones or Wolf Hall, even the higher end, you're watching lifestyles of the rich and famous. People wealthy that they never lifted a finger for, which is kings, never did a damn thing for, behaving really badly. I don't know why that's interesting. And if one is identifying with one of the parties in that, that's very strange. That much is made of the fact that what Rylance is the part, Wolsey, is that the part? Wolsey? The part that he is playing, it comes from working class stock, he's and we use that as a sort of motivating, an operative motivation for him. And we're supposed to be interested in that. And all those poor women. And Henry VIII, just, Donald Trump.